So what I'm going to start with is I'm just going to take you guys through my everyday basics just because they've changed a lot since the last time I've recorded something. So yeah, hope you guys enjoy. So since it's been kind of a long time since I've done a YouTube video, I thought that it would be a good idea to show you just kind of some of the basic things that I do every day. So like my foundation and my brows, stuff like that. So let's get started. I'm going to start first with my foundation, and first thing I'm going to start with is my primer. I recently started using the Becca First Light priming filter, and I actually really like it. I decided that for this I wanted to kind of use like what my favorite go-to foundation types, my favorite go-to foundations. I use a lot of different things on any given day, but this is kind of my favorite combination of things to use. So the foundation that I'm going to use is the Time Balm foundation from the Balm. I never ever see anybody ever talk about this foundation or talk about the Balm really much at all, other than just kind of like Mary Luminizer, which is the only thing that I've heard of from people mostly. But their foundations are amazing. Every foundation I've used from them, I've used this one and their newer foundation, Even Steven, which is a whipped like mousse foundation, and I love them. They look so good on my skin. It's so underrated. I don't know why more people don't talk about these, but this in particular, this Time Balm foundation is my favorite, and this one is light, and I'm going to use this with an Anastasia Beverly Hills A30 brush, and I feel like with just these, the A30 and the Time Balm foundation, I really don't even need to use a beauty blender to blend it out. I just kind of stamp it into my skin, and it usually looks pretty good. And a little bit of this goes a really long way, which I love. And it looks really nice and dewy. I would say it has kind of a satin finish on the skin. My skin doesn't look crazy dewy and shiny afterwards, but it also doesn't look super matte. I'm pretty oily, I would say. Not crazy oily, but I do get oily. But even though I get oily, I still like to keep my skin kind of with a little bit of a shine to it, a little bit of dewiness. I don't ever like to be totally matte. That's just a little too artificial looking for me. Okay, so now I'm going to move on to concealing and highlighting. I'm going to go right in with the Nars Radiant Creamy Concealer. This one is the shade Chantilly. I don't really use any color corrector under my eyes just because I don't really feel like I have a whole lot of discoloration. And since concealer is meant to cover minor amounts of discolorations, I'm not going to overcomplicate the process with a lot of product under my eyes when I don't really need it. So I'm going to go in with again this Nars concealer, and I'm gonna just do a couple like dots under the eyes. I kind of blend as I go with everything. I don't like to draw all of my shapes onto my face first, just because I feel like this concealer does at a certain point start to set at least a little bit, and I found that in the past when I've gone and applied this everywhere and then went back in to blend it, by the time I got to the blending like through the center of my face, I felt like it was a little bit difficult to blend out. So now I just kind of go piece by piece, and I'm gonna blend out with a beauty blender while I do that. So the product that I'm going to use is definitely hands down my favorite product for cream contouring, at least, which is the Anastasia Beverly Hills Stick Foundation in Fawn. It's just the perfect color. I like that it's a stick. It's really easy to apply that way. So yeah, I'm going to apply this. As opposed to my highlighting, where I kind of blend as I go, with my contour, I usually just apply everything and then blend it out. And the two brushes that I'm going to use today to blend out are, I pretty much always use these two brushes. For the contouring around my face, I'm going to use the Real Techniques buffing brush. For the contour on my nose, I'm going to use the Furless Cosmetics CB1. I'm going to actually set my face right now. So what I'm going to do is I am going to use a beauty blender. I'm going to use kind of an adapted baking technique. I used to be very adamant that I hated baking techniques and that they were stupid because it's just too much product. I just feel like it's too much product for anybody to really wear on an average day. Baking is totally appropriate if you're going to be under really, really heavy stage lighting, if you're a drag queen, for instance. If you're going to be putting your makeup through really, really intense things and you need your high contrast and your low contrast, I'm sorry, not your high contrast and low contrast, but your highlights and your contours to be extremely visible and very high in contrast, then baking is totally for you. That amount of product is totally for you. But I think for the average person just doing their makeup, it's not, I don't think it's necessary. So if you love baking, go for it. Bake all the time. But I don't love that technique. But that's not to say that I don't love the idea of pressing powder into the skin to get it to adhere better and to look more seamless. So basically what I do in terms of the adapted technique is I'm still going to apply with a beauty blender. My beauty blender isn't crazy damp. I could squeeze the life out of this and no water is gonna come out. So relatively not dry beauty blender. I definitely dampened this, but no excess water sitting inside of it. And then I'm gonna take my powder and I'm just gonna lay the exact amount under my eyes that I would wear. I'm not going to put tons of product and then allow it to sit and dust off any excess. I'm just gonna apply the exact amount that I intend to wear and just press that into my skin. Another option, you don't have to use a beauty blender to do this. You could also use a powder puff. A powder puff is a really good option as well. Sometimes if I use a powder puff, I'll lay the powder on with the puff and then follow up with a beauty blender and just blend it and just kind of continue to press it into the skin. I am going to apply my powder contour now. And lately for powder contour, I typically love to use the ABH Original Powder Contour Kit, specifically the shade Fawn that matches the Fawn stick foundation that I used. One of my favorites. Recently, I've been using a different palette to contour with that I've also been loving, which is the Cozzette Infinite Contour Palette. Mine looks like garbage right now because it's a mess. But it's got these shades in it here. And as you can tell, I just kind of use a mixture of all of these lighter shades here. I'm going to use a Sigma Large Angled Contour F40 brush for this. And I'm just going to mix all of these three shades together. And I'm going to apply this right on top of where I applied the stick foundation in Fawn. So this is just going to enhance that contour a little bit more. And I also feel, as I mentioned earlier, I feel like this helps the contour last longer, but I also feel like this makes the contour look a lot smoother. It has less patches. This is just for me at least. If I use one or the other, sometimes I feel like there's more patchiness in the overall outcome. So I like layering the two. And I'm just gonna go on top of every area where I added that cream contour, just lightly. And then again, or not again, but I'm gonna go along my jawline with this. I don't like to use cream contour on my jawline just because I don't feel like it's necessary. I don't use that much contour on my jawline. My double chin is not that severe, so I'm not too concerned about it. But when I do my jawline, I always make sure to really just blend this down the neck so it doesn't end up looking like I have just this straight up gray line along my chin. I'll kind of blend this on the sides of the neck, down the front of the neck a little bit, just kind of shape everything, especially if you're gonna wear your hair up or you have your like neck, décolleté, shoulder area showing. Don't forget about the fact that your head is connected to your body, and if your head is gonna have tons of structure and contouring, your body probably should too. I've always been fair, so this year I'm playing around with being a little bit more tan. So what I'm gonna do is I have completely fallen in love with the Marc Jacobs Omega Bronze Tantastic Bronzer. I'm sure you guys have heard every single person on YouTube talk about this bronzer, but I really do love it for my skin tone. It's gorgeous. It's really nice and cool. It's not super orangey, so I don't feel like it looks really artificial on me. So I'm using this brush, which is a million years old, from a company called Powder and Pandemonium. I don't know if she still offers this brush, but I fucking love this brush. I use this brush for absolutely everything. All right, I'm gonna add some blush now. I'm going to use the ABH Blush Trio in Pool Party. I really love these blushes. Blush is something that I absolutely love. I feel some people, you're either a blush person or you're not. I've definitely encountered that, in that some people just don't like to wear blush, and that's perfectly okay, but I am a huge blush person. I think Pool Party Blush Trio has ended up being my favorite out of the 5 that launched from ABH. I'm going to use, and I continuously use a mixture of these 2 colors here, Cash and Pageant. Mixing those 2 colors together, I'm using a Makeup Addiction brush. This is called the Blusher, and I'm just kind of tapping the 2 colors onto this, and then I always tap onto my hand because I'm very fair. These are not, I mean, crazy pigmented. They're as full pigment as you'd want a blush to be, but since I'm so fair, these can go on pretty strong on me. So grabbing it, tapping it off a little bit, and then I'm pressing this right into the apple of the cheek and blending it backward into the contour and the bronzer. Okay, so I am going to add highlight last. Before I add highlight, I always do setting spray first, just because I have a lot of powder sitting on my face right now, and to add more powder highlight on top, at least with the intensity that I want, it's gonna be difficult to get it to stick evenly. So I always do a setting spray first and let my setting spray kind of like work into the skin, and then I add my highlight. That way my skin has a little bit more tack and something to grab onto. So I'm going to use the Kat Von D Lock It Makeup Setting Mist. I absolutely love this setting spray. It's my favorite. So I'm going to go ahead and spray this all over. Okay, now that my setting spray is nice and absorbed, I'm going to go in with a highlight now, and I'm going to use the Makeup Geek Duochrome Highlighter in Celestial. And I'm going to use an Anastasia A23 to apply that to my cheekbones and the bigger parts of my face, so cheekbones and my forehead. And then for the center of my face, I'm going to use the ABH A24, so it's a little bit smaller. So my skin is done. So now I'm going to move on to brows. So this is going to be just my absolute go-to every single day. This is what my brows look like. I pretty much always use these products and very rarely stray from these products. And if I do, I'll show you what my alternatives are when I get there. But for my brows, first thing that I'm going to start with is the ABH Brow Wiz. And this one is dark brown. I use dark brown or I use medium brown. Let's see, I think I have a medium brown right here somewhere. Oh, maybe not. Oh yeah, right here. I think I'm gonna use medium brown instead. But yeah, for me, medium brown or dark brown, I can kind of use either. Just with the technique that I'm using to apply it, they end up looking very similar. So, but I'm gonna use medium brown today. So, I'm gonna start by just brushing all of my brow hairs up. That way I can see the shape. And what I like to do is create just kind of like a more natural looking brow. I don't like it to look too heavy or carved out. So I'm gonna go in and I just kind of start first by sketching the lower arch. Just kind of creating a really soft line along the lower arch, just so I can get an idea of where my shape is. And then from there I'm gonna go in and start adding texture. Alright, so now that I have my brows filled in with my Brow Wiz, that's really the only product that I use to fill in the brow. Next, I'm going to use a brow gel, and I use 2 different brow gels. I start with a tinted gel, and then I use a clear gel. The tinted gel that I've been using recently that I really like is the Make It Forever Brow Gel, and this is the shade 25. It's dark blonde. So I'm going to take this, and I'm going to run this through my brows. The direction that I'm going to go is I'm going to follow the direction of growth. So towards the front of the brow, I'm going to go upwards, and then as I start to work outward, I'm going to start to kind of like lay my brows down a little bit, to the point where towards the outside, I'm pulling them out towards my hairline. The last step that I'm going to do is just kind of clean these brows up a little bit. I'm going to go in with the highlighting duo pencil in Shell and Lace, and I'm just going to use the matte side, which is Shell, and I'm just taking this under the brow just to help straighten up those lines under there a little bit, and also to clean up if I've smudged anywhere. So like I had a little smudge right here from my brow gel. Now I can get rid of it. So I'm just going to go in, color a little bit of that there. And I'm going to use an ABH brush to blend this. Typically the brush that I would use is the brush 20. I can't really find mine right now, but I'm going to use one that looks almost just like it. This is the ABH A1 brush. This is, again, another product from the Balm. The Balm is amazing. They are so underrated. Here's another product that I've been using recently that I love too, which is their liquid liner, the Schwing liquid liner. Super matte, super black, crazy long wearing. This stuff is incredible and I never hear anybody talk about it. So there you go, the Balm Schwing liquid liner, but also the Scuba water resistant black mascara. So yeah, the Scuba black mascara from the Balm is amazing, and you're gonna see it today. I like it just because it's not super thick. My lashes recently, I've been using a lash serum. I've been using the Grande lash serum, and I got it around IMATS time. So what was that, February or something? I think it was like February. IMATS in New York. So that was like February or March, I can't remember. But around the time that IMATS New York was when I got it, and I've been using it ever since, and my lashes look so good, so good. I didn't believe it. Like I was just kind of like using it and just like, oh, I'll see if it works, but I wasn't really using it really diligently. And then even with my not using it diligently, I started to see that my lashes were looking really a lot fuller than they were before. So then I really started using it diligently every night, and I feel like my lashes look night and day. They look amazing. So shout out to Grande Lash, because that serum is absolutely worth it, and you can get it at Sephora or their website. Lash primers are not something that I'm like, again, I'm not a super huge believer in. I'm not a big primer person in general. I don't use like a lot of eye primers. I don't really use a whole lot of face primers. Lash primer is definitely usually out of the question for me, because it just seems like a frivolous extra thing that you don't really need. And oftentimes I feel like lash primers will make my lashes look too clumpy or too heavy, or the color of it might alter the color of my mascara and make it look more gray instead of black. So it's just a headache mostly. But my favorite one, and the only one that I feel like actually works for me, is the Lancome Cils Booster. This one works really well. I love this one. So this is what I'm going to use today. I'm going to curl my lashes really quick. This is a Tarte eyelash curler. I really like it. I guess I've never really been aware of major differences in eyelash curlers, so much so that I'd be like, you have to own this one. But it works. It curls my lashes. I've had it a long time. I've had it a couple years. Gross. But I probably had it like 2 years, not even that long. But it works, so I use it. There you go. Alright, last thing I'm going to do is just apply one of my favorite lip glosses. I mentioned to you guys that I've been using that Grande Lash Serum. Well, they also make a lip plumper. The lip plumper comes in a couple different colors as well as a clear. I've completely exhausted the clear one. I ran out of it, but I'm going to apply one of the colored ones, and this one is called Cashmere. It's just a really pretty nude shade. Alright guys, so that's going to complete my just everyday basics. So hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe. I am going to try to be better at this. I have a much better space and everything to be recording YouTube videos, and I just bought a brand new computer, so I have everything set up for me to not be bad at this. So hopefully third time's the charm, and I will be able to permanently be back on YouTube. So let's cross our fingers about that. And if you guys have any ideas or suggestions of things that you want to see me doing, things that I should be doing, let me know. But yeah, thank you guys again for watching and visiting my channel. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you next time.